Hi guys, I'm Darren, and in this video we're going to be checking out the Sequre MSS 12 mini soldering station. So a little soldering thing like this is something I've been looking at getting for quite a while, and to put all the cards on the table, Sequre actually approached me and said would I like to review one, so I thought yeah, why not, because I'm actually looking to get one anyway. Basically my thought behind this is not necessarily soldering on the desktop, though it could be great for that, but it's taking it to the flying field and being able to make repairs. At the end of the season last year, I actually had to strip the end of the wire away, poke it through a ground hole and hot glue it in place just so I could fly again. And that was the ground for the receiver. So it was a bit of a dodgy repair, but it all worked fine. But having something like this at the field would mean I could solder it properly. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is completely box fresh. Let's get in there and take a look. So you can see this is all still in the wrapper. I'm actually going to film this in a couple of sections, so if I'm wearing different clothes at the conclusion, that's why. I want to be sort of testing this, but I'm going to do an unboxing first so we can have a quick look at what we get. Right, so it's all nicely cellophane wrapped. We've got a QA pass, which hopefully means that it's been checked out by someone. And actually, I do like these like fake carbon fiber cases. I think they look cool. Okay, so here's our little pouch, which is actually not massive. So putting it in a flight bag would actually be really quite simple. So what we're looking at, a ruler without all the numbers on, which is brilliant. Well, I can see the inches, so I'm going to measure it in inches and I'll put it up on screen in metric. So 6 3/4 inches long, and I can actually do the millimeters for the width. So 70 millimeters for the width, and the depth total we're looking at about 55 millimeters. So it's quite a compact little case, but what's inside it is more important. Oh, this is nicely packed. So we get a little soldering stand with a wiping pad in it, which that's pretty cool. Don't really get why it's in like a anti-static bag. It'd be probably better if it was just in the case on its own, so there'd be less plastic waste. But as Leah Painless 360 likes to say, that's cute. So yeah, it's just got a little pad in there you could wet down at the field. If you've got a bottle of water, wet it down with that, and a little stand, so obviously it holds your soldering iron up. So yeah, that's really nice. Next up we have the actual control unit. So this is going to be controlling our temperature, probably other things as well, and the attachment for the actual soldering iron itself. On the back we have a DC power inlet, so this can be powered from 12 to 25 volts or 3S to 6S in some battery money. And on the side is a USB type C connector, so that you can actually power this through the USB-C. I've not read a manual yet, so I don't know if you could also maybe do firmware updates with the USB. Right, so we get a lead made up with an XT60 on. It's actually pretty decent length, maybe sort of 700 mil, something like that. So yeah, we can just plug that in the back and then use our flight battery at the field. Right, so in this top section, what do we get? We get some stickers. And we get a user guide. So I'll take a brief look at that in a sec. We get our actual sort of soldering iron, sort of the main body of it. And we get a tip. Now you can get lots of different tips for this. So the one that's come with this is just sort of a regular pointed tip. But I can't actually see sort of any markings on there to actually say what it is. It'd be quite handy where you can obviously replace these, that it would be stamped on it somewhere like that. But right, I believe it literally just pushes in. Okay, so I've had a quick look through the manual, and you can actually upgrade this through firmware, which I'm guessing is going to be through this USB cable. But on the website at the moment, it's saying that all of these MSS 12 units are shipped with the latest firmware, and they will be upgradable when a new firmware comes out, but at the moment they're shipped from the factory with the latest firmware. Right, so this is actually quite a smart iron. So if I plug it in, we've got a locating at the bottom, slide that in and screw this up. So one of the things that's quite cool is it has a sleep mode. So if it detects that it's not been used in a while, it will automatically lower the temperature to a sleep temperature. So that fits in there quite nicely. And what I'm going to do is plug in a LiPo. Okay, so we get our little power on noise. We've got the battery voltage of the LiPo, which is 15.7 volts. We know it's in stop at the minute, and we have 27 degrees, which is going to be the ambient temperature at the moment of this. So if I hold it, will it actually warm up a little bit? Yeah, so it's going up, so it is measuring the tip. We have a smaller number to the side, which I'm guessing is the temperature that it will be at when it starts. And we have a percentage, which is the amount of power it's sending out to the battery. So a quick click to start it. So battery percentage is at 100, and you can see that the temperature is going up rapidly. So using this battery, it said about 14 seconds to get up to 300 degrees, which seems about right, to be honest. So it's not as quick as a large desktop unit, but you really wouldn't expect it to be. But you can see that the power is now sort of sitting around sort of 30 to 40%, and it is maintaining temperature. So while it's working, we can set the desired temperature. So this will go up to, on the dial, 450 degrees, which, you know, you can do XT60s with that, you know, bit of flux, no problem. So this is in centigrade, and it will go all the way down to 100 degrees. So you've got quite a range to play with. So I'm going to put this to about 350. In the on mode, if you just do a quick press, it will go to stop mode. Obviously at this point, power goes to 0 and it will start cooling down again. To get into the menu, it is a long press. At this point, we can set up the iron. So in the top level menu, we can choose what part we want to adjust, and then a click to get into it. So we have T-comp, which is the temperature compensation. We have buzzer on and off. We have the temperature unit, so you can choose between centigrade and Fahrenheit. We have the working temperature, so this is your default temperature. So I'm going to put mine up to 350. That's sort of my base on my main workstation. Okay, so I guess you just leave it to finalize, or is it? No, yeah, so you just leave it when you're finished. Start heat, so I'm going to leave mine off, and there's a factory reset. Temp shield on, which I believe is the going into the sleep mode. And there is the temperature step, which is how many degrees it moves when you adjust the dial. The only thing I don't like is it seems to come out the menus a bit too quickly for my liking. Maybe that's because you have to go backwards to store the settings, but I'd rather do it with like a press or a long press to store the settings and have a longer time in the menu. Right, so idle, what can we do? So we have a sleep time, so it's 180 seconds, so that's 3 minutes. And a sleep temperature, so I'm actually going to put mine right down, just because I'd rather actually even just turn off if possible, if I've not even using it for a while. Alright, so the lowest you can go to is the 100 degrees. We have an idle time of 360 seconds. Sensitivity 5. So that is the wake up sensitivity. So if you pick that up, it will wake up. And we have a screen open, which is what it shows on the standby. So now there's OLED, so we can adjust the brightness, we can rotate it, and we can set the key action to left or right. Right, volt, we have low, oh, so long press will come out. So yeah, I don't know why there's a timer on the menu if you can long press to leave. So we have a low voltage protection. So if you turn that, you get the actual voltage. So if I'm using a 4S, I don't want it to go below sort of 14.6 volts. And power unit volt is basically sort of so you can calibrate the power supply voltage. So you can go minus or plus 5 volts. Calibration allows you to calibrate the temperature readout, which I'm not going to do because I've actually got no way of measuring it. And then finally we just get an about screen. It seems to be pretty decent, to be honest. It's got a lot of features on it. You can actually set the temperature you want it before you even press go. That's pretty cool. So the next question is, how well does it solder? Right, just to be really easy on this thing, the only thing I've actually got at the moment that I want to solder up is my XT30 connector. Yeah, it's not as bad as an XT60, but it's still a pretty decent test because we're soldering quite a thick wire. So this is an American wire gauge 16, so it's AWG 16. Let's get this on. I'm going to go for 400 degrees, which should be absolutely plenty, even with sort of this sort of thick wire. And I'm going to be really, really bad and go sans flux. So we've got the current temperature, we've got the power going into the battery, and we've got the small one is the temperature that we want it at. So let's give this a try. So we're at 400. Let's get a bit of solder on the tip and let's see how we do. And this really isn't fair, seeing as I'm not actually using any flux, but that is going through pretty nicely. I'm using the wiping bit on my old soldering station just so I don't get this one dirty. But yeah, that's done a pretty decent job, seeing as there was no flux or anything like that involved. So let's tin this wire as well now. I appreciate that this is not really the best way of doing this either. But it's quite awkward doing it on camera. That's a bit better. Yeah, it's actually getting a nice amount of heat into the wire. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I've not actually been glancing over at this, so how well has it been holding the temperature? But yeah, this is actually handling this no problem at all. Definitely. I mean, it's obviously a slower heat up time than the desktop soldering station. But as far as the actual doing the job goes, it is actually very good. So yeah, that's a nice solid joint. Get the positive on. Right. So yeah, I don't think that fluctuated at all. So let's let that cool down. And let's take a look at the joint. So there we go. You can see that all the bits inside is, well and truly soldered in there. And considering that was no flux, 400 degrees, I think that's done very well. The next test would be, how well does it solder outside? Okay, so this might seem like a bit of a strange test, but I wanted to try and get something done outdoors. But actually it's really, really warm and there's a bit of a heat wave coming next week, so to do some sort of test to see how well it heats up in cold weather is not going to happen. So I'm going to do this just to take it to extremes, just to see how well it does. So what I've got is, you can see 36 degrees is actually what it is at the moment. So that is ambient temperature. It's not actually on at this point. And I've set it to the maximum 450 degrees. This is again connected to my 4S battery, which you can see has got 15.6, 15.7 volts in it. So let's just hit the start button and I'm going to see how long it takes to get up to temperature. So I'll move that away a little bit and then let's go. So there we go, we're up to temperature, and maybe that took about 30 seconds. I'll put a timer on screens properly when the video is actually edited. But that is the time for actually on a really warm day and just ambient sort of temperature. So what I'm going to do next is see what it's like in the cold. Okay, so I said I had a bit of an extreme test, so here we go. This is actually in my fridge, which is at 3 degrees centigrade. So we're at 32 degrees ambient. It was at about 50 when I stuck it in there. So let's crank it right up. There you go, 450 degrees. So you can see the temperature still sort of going down. And let's press go. I'll actually shut the door a bit. So the angle will be a bit janky, but it's because I'm shutting the door as much as I can. But you can see the temperature is actually going up pretty quickly still. This is the same battery, you can see it's a lot less voltage left in it now. But yeah, this is rocketing up. 400 degrees, 415. So I think that has got up to temperature with, in the same sort of time that it did in ambient, which is actually really pretty damn good, to be honest. I'm just going to switch it off, and you can see it's going to just go straight down. So yeah, in a cold environment, it is actually working pretty well. This is the best that I can do given the circumstances of a heat wave outside. But yeah, you can hear the fridge moaning at me to shut the door, so I better get this done. Right, so as you could see from the last clip, this thing seems to do pretty well in a wide range of temperatures. As I say, I would have preferred to have tested it outside in a sort of colder environment, so maybe I'll come back and try this out in the winter and actually do it outside. But at the moment there is a heat wave going on. Today's been the hottest day of the year, actually the hottest day on record for the UK. So yeah, it's been a little bit tricky to test, but hopefully the sticking it in a fridge, though I know it's not completely scientific or anything like that, will show that even getting up to temperature in the cooler environment and maintaining it really didn't seem to have any more power draw than in sort of the ambient, which was overly warm for this time of year anyway. So it's gone from one extreme to another, but also I guess in a fridge it is a pretty consistent environment. So if I were to test other soldering irons, that temperature is always the same. It's actually going to be the ambient that varies. So hopefully that test is good enough for you guys. I have been using this and it is actually a really nice iron to use, and this now is going to be a permanent feature in my flight bag because I have needed to use them at the field in the past, and this seems to be a really good solution. Overall, my impressions are pretty good. Most of it seems to be absolutely fine, and actually using it is fine. The couple of small issues I have is I wish the case was a little bit bigger to make it easier to get stuff in. It's sort of a bit bulging out where it's crammed in there. So yeah, a slightly bigger case, maybe with a few spaces for alternate tips and stuff like solder and flux, so that you've got the complete solution other than the battery in the one case. Other than that, it was really the menu, which I will actually be going back to Sequre and giving my feedback on, because I think the menu could work a lot better. The backing out of it quickly is a bit annoying, to be honest, when you could just long press to hold to go back rather than just relying on a timeout. So, but other than that, when you're actually just dialing in a temperature, pressing go and using it, it works great. So yeah, no problem at all. So yeah, I will be carrying on using this thing. As I said, it will be permanently in my flight bag. So thank you very much guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. That will help introduce more people to this soldering iron, but also other videos that I make will pop up and they may also interest you. So thank you very much guys. Fly your models like you stole them. See you on the next one.